With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days.
And Iran has warned of retaliatory attacks on U.S. bases in West Asia after the U.S. attacked the key Iranian nuclear sites, joining Israel in the biggest Western military action against the Islamic Republic since its 1979 revolution. Senior advisor to Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has said any country hosting U.S. forces involved in the strikes would be considered a legitimate target. The head of Iran's military also said every time Americans have committed crimes against Iran, they have received a decisive response, and it will be the same this time. According to the New York Times, American military and intelligence officials have detected signs of Iran-backed groups preparing to attack U.S. bases in Iraq and possibly Syria. The report quoted an official who said Iraqis are working to dissuade them from attacking. The U.S. has a number of military bases in Iraq, including 2 airfields, Al-Harir and Ain al-Assad air bases. According to the White House, the U.S. maintains a presence at Ain al-Assad air base in western Anbar province, supporting Iraqi security forces and also contributing to the NATO mission. Iranian missile strikes targeted the base in 2020 in retaliation for the U.S. killing of the Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. And speaking specifically about the Erbil air base, it is situated in the semi-autonomous Kurdistan region of northern Iraq and serves as a hub for U.S. and coalition forces, conducting training exercises and battle drills. And let's speak about Syria for now. America's Al-Tanf garrison is housed in the southern part of the country, near the borders of Iraq and Jordan. The Trump administration has warned Iran against any retaliation, with the Secretary of State stating that it would be the worst mistake Tehran could ever make. In an exclusive with Fox News, Rubio claimed that America's goal in the region is not war, but warned that if they are attacked, they will respond with capabilities never seen before. And in a separate interview to CBS, Rubio reiterated Washington's determination to protect its personnel in the region. Meanwhile, the U.S. State Department has issued a worldwide caution for Americans, saying the conflict in West Asia could put those traveling or living abroad at an increased security risk. The State Department Security Alert said there is potential for demonstrations against U.S. citizens and interests abroad, advising Americans worldwide to exercise increased caution. Similar notification issued in 2024 as well as in 2023 due to the potential for terrorist activities, demonstrations or violent actions against U.S. citizens and interests. And going straight across now to David Lippman, West Asia analyst, with us on the broadcast. Thanks very much for being here. I have to begin by asking you for your understanding of where things could go from here onwards. Iran looks determined to retaliate. The U.S. at this time, very interestingly, sending out that message after Trump also insisting that the war must end now. It's a time for peace. We just also told our viewers about what the messaging now is from Washington about regime change in Iran. What do you make of all of that?
Well, thank you for having me. I would make first a point that in terms of where things are headed, this really depends on whether Iran has gotten the message that Donald Trump, as a president of the United States of America, is not like past presidents. Iran has gotten to this point with its nuclear weapons program, its proxy or terrorist proxy network around the region, in large part because it was able to string along the United States and other Western powers into endless negotiations and giving up important points simply on vague promises by the Iranian regime. Now, Donald Trump has come in and he has made clear that he's a man of his word. He gave 60 days for negotiations, and on the 61st day, Israel carried out its strike against Iran's regime in light of developments that they were moving towards weaponizing their nuclear or creating kind of a crude nuclear warhead. Now, Iran can still get the message, and I think the regime can still survive this if they understand the seriousness of both the U.S. and the Israeli position that they are not going to tolerate these existential threats in the region. As far as regime change, even the Donald Trump tweet he made, make Iran great again, it was conditional. And I think the condition is that Iran begins to take the United States seriously and enters the negotiations with the understanding that it will not be able to string Western powers along anymore. It needs to give up its belligerent missions across the entire region. And if it does so, then the regime can survive this. If not, then I think it's up to the Iranian people to decide whether they want to continue this dangerous path forward with this dangerous regime.
Right. At this point, do you really see Iran retaliating in the way that has been, in a way, feared the worst? Because at this point, if they do go after American assets in the region, that would, of course, mean a further escalation. And this would mean there will be serious implications, not just for West Asia, but beyond as well. So do you really see that happening?
Unfortunately, I can see Iran retaliating and making a big mistake here. And the reason is because the regime itself has built itself as some kind of force of resistance against the United States. Its entire image that it's delivered to radicals across the entire region, which have joined its proxy network, joined the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. They joined on this idea that the regime was this radical entity that was going to push for a particularly extreme and diluted form of Islamic revivalism across the region. And I think if Iran begins to show weakness, it begins to lose that credibility, if it hasn't already, with those extremist factions across the region. And that really has been the source of its power. And it's been one of the major sources of its power to threaten nearby neighboring countries, whether it's the Gulf Arab countries, Syria, Lebanon, Israel. So unfortunately, I think they're caught in a situation where it's bad if they do, it's bad if they don't. I think it's going to be far worse if they do retaliate. Because again, I think Donald Trump has proved that he's a man of his word. And if they do strike out at U.S. Assets, or if they, for example, try to close the Strait of Hormuz, that's going to engender a very, very harsh, ferocious response. And one thing to keep in mind is that neither the Israelis nor the Americans have really hit perhaps one of the most significant assets outside of the nuclear sites, which is the economic sites, the oil ports, the oil facilities.
All right. We're leaving it there for the moment. Thanks very much for joining us with those perspectives.